We're recording?
See it?
Good evening. Welcome to the August meeting of the Niskuna Zoning Board of Appeals. Ms. Shigetti, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Lataif?
Here.
Mr. Dolman?
Here.
Ms. Pacheco?
Here.
Mr. Daly?
Here.
Mr. Green?
Here.
Mr. Antonakowski?
Here.
Chairperson Hoke?
Here. The first matter on the agenda is a review of the July meeting minutes. Mr. Green has brought to my attention that line 89 has a typo. It indicates Mr. Dolman where it should indicate Mr. Green. Request that be amended unless there's an objection. With that change, would anybody like to make a motion to the July 17th?
Before making a motion, I have another correction.
Okay.
On line 84, the word college should be colleagues. That's my only correction.
Okay, with those two corrections made, are there any other corrections?
Trying to cut me out?
No, having heard no other corrections, if someone would like to make a motion to approve the minutes with the two corrections
So
to,
moved.
I make a motion that July 17th meeting be approved.
okay, a motion's been made and seconded by Mr.
Second.
Dolman. Ms. Shigetti, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Lataif?
Yes.
Mr. Dolman?
Yes.
Ms. Pacheco?
Yes.
Mr. Daly?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Antonakowski?
Yes.
Chairperson Hoke?
Yes. Will you call the first matter, Ms. Shigetti?
Request from Abby and Kevin Zelitnik, 1422 Valencia Road, to extend their zoning board of appeals decision. At the April 17, 2024 meeting, the ZBA granted their request for a variance to construct a sunroom addition partially within the side yard setback. The town code section A 235-10D provides, unless otherwise specified, any order or decision of the board for a permitted use shall expire if a building or occupancy permit for the use is not obtained by the applicant within 90 days from the date of the decision. However, the board may extend this time an additional 90 days. The ZBA's decision expired on July 17th, 2024. On July 30th, 2024, the building department received construction plans. Therefore, a 90-day extension to the original variance is required.
Is the applicant present this evening? Would you like to step forward, sir? You state your name and address to the record, please.
It's Kevin Zelaznik at 1422 Valencia Road.
Kevin, obviously, you've subsequently are seeking to obtain that permit, correct?
Correct.
I assume that you're prepared to move forward with the construction as was contemplated originally at this time.
Correct.
Do you envision any additional delays?
No, this was strictly a clerical error on my part. Lost the track of the timeline.
Okay. Are there any questions from any members of the board relative to this application?
Just a reminder, what was your project? What were you
It
doing?
was an additional, we're a sunroom off the back of our house, replacing a deck. I think we required like a 3-foot variance.
I remember that. Thank you.
And I just got a question, just for clarification. Would the extension be from the date of the expiration? So 90 days from the date of the expiration, July 17th?
That is correct.
Okay.
Are there any other questions?
Can we move to have that from today to give the applicant just extra time to complete his project?
No, I believe the date is based upon the code,
Oh,
so,
it's in statute.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
this looks like a technicality at this point because I believe the applicant's ready to move forward, correct?
Correct.
Is there any member of the public that wishes to be heard for or against this application? Having heard none, having heard no one from the audience that wishes to be heard, is there anyone who wishes to make a,
Mr. Chairman, I'm gonna make a motion to approve this applicant for the permit for the 90 days from July 17. I think I recall this case, and as applicant specified, it was a mistake on his behalf, and I make a motion to approve it for the 90 days.
Second.
I second that, Mr. Chairman.
It's already been seconded. A motion has been made by Mr. Latif and seconded by Mr. Dolman with a super second from Mr. Daly. I just have a question for Elena. Is there a standard that goes with this application? Would it be the same standard as a variance application, or is it different?
Well, it's going to be different than a variance application because you're not going to be weighing the legal criteria.
So what would be the standard for reviewing this?
I
Just for
actually
my,
don't have that pulled up, the code. Is there anything in the code, Laura? Or is it just discretionary?
Yeah, the only thing in the code is that the board may extend the time an additional 90 days.
okay.
Yeah.
So this is just based upon discretion.
Yeah, that's what I would say based on Laura's read of the code. It's just discretionary to this board.
Okay. That's just basically for my edification more so than anything else. Ms. Shakedi, will you go ahead and call the roll, please?
Mr. Latif?
Yes.
Mr. Dolman?
Yes.
Ms. Pacheco?
Yes.
Mr. Daly?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Antonakowski?
Yes.
Chairperson Hoke?
Yes. Your extension has been granted. Good luck with the project. Will you call the next matter, Ms. Shakedi?
The appeal by Chris Fink for a variance from section 220-25B1A of the zoning ordinance of the town of Niskiuna as it applies to the property at 2316 Nelson Drive, Niskiuna, New York, located in the R2 Medium Density Residential Zoning District, to install a 6-foot high lattice fence which exceeds the height limit in the side yard. The property is a corner lot. As defined, each street line shall be considered a front lot line. Thus, it is front yards along Nelson Drive and Providence Ave. The interior line, most nearly parallel to the rear of the principal structure, shall be deemed the rear lot line. The other interior line shall be deemed the side line. Fence section 220-25B1A permits the maximum height for fences located in the front and side yards to be 4 feet. As proposed, a 6-foot-high lattice fence will be located in the side yard. Therefore, a 2-foot fence height variance is required. 12 notices were mailed, 0 responses.
The applicant, please come forward.
Do you have any of the handouts or the map of our?
You just have to go up to the podium and speak into the mic, please.
First,
Do you have any of the?
yeah, first of all, can you just tell us your name and your
My
ad-
name is Chris Fink. I live at 2316 Nelson Drive in Niskiuna.
Okay, Mr. Fink. So what was your question was, we have your application and the materials that
Do you
were
have?
submitted with
do you
that
have the-
application.
Oh, yes, it is.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay, so that was the map that I was
yes.
looking at. And just before we get started here, all of the fence that's diagrammed out there is existing fence, correct?
The,
Or existing lattice?
You have another
fence
person
that
speaking.
replaced, there was three parts to the project.
Could you just, would you state your name and address as well?
Alan Beatty,
You gotta stay
Co-
out of this.
also live at 2316 Nelson Drive.
Okay,
So there's 3 parts to our fence project. The first part was to replace the fence along the side of Providence, which is done. And then the remaining wooden fence, we do have the building permit for. And what we're trying to do now is this section that's in yellow, replace the existing lattice that's there. The part that's on the far side closest to you guys is the part that's missing. We took that down because the whole thing had fallen down with the snow in the trees.
I'm sorry, which part is missing currently?
It's,
Just go, if you could point it out, demonstrate without talking outside of the microphone, but you can go over there and just point to it.
yeah, so this is the
Okay,
section that we're
that's-
trying to replace right here.
Understood, sir. Could you just tell us which part is missing currently?
This section here.
Okay.
It's basically 4 panels, 3 to 4 panels.
All right. Hey, we just need you to be speaking into the microphone because
Sure.
we're taking everything down. I'm not trying to be difficult,
No, I
but
know.
otherwise we don't have a record of what you're saying. So, okay, so there's a portion of the yellow line that's currently missing. Was that originally 6 feet in height?
Yes.
Okay.
It was
So-
there when I moved into the property in 1998.
Okay. So it was there for a long time, and now you're looking to replace what are you replacing it with?
It's
Again,
a
lattice fence.
Hold on just a sec.
lattice work, like trellis.
Okay, 6 foot high.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, that's okay.
Basically looks like this.
Okay, you're demonstrating a picture. Could we see that?
Yep. Take that up.
Do you need that back, or can we make
Yes,
that
I need
part of
that
the
back.
record? Okay. Well, let me.
So it's this kind of lattice fencing here.
Okay. Let me just show everybody on the board what you've presented. It's at the bottom.
This one. This one. Number 174. 174.
Yeah. And Laura, if they went from the back corner of the property, would there be a need for the variance?
No, if they moved it to the rear corner, it would not require a variance.
Okay. So the what I had just asked, what I believe to be true, was if you moved the lattice that went off the back corner of your property as opposed to up some from the back corner of the property, you wouldn't require a variance from there. So why is that not why is that not feasible, or we can't do that? Because we don't have a fence there currently,
No,
correct?
That's the railing to the deck, and it overlooks that area where it says it's a planter. That's all covered with greenery, and there's a fountain in the middle.
Okay. So this encapsulates a garden area.
Yes.
Yes.
And there's a fountain between where that back corner of the property is and where the proposed new lattice fence is, correct?
I do have some pictures of that.
Okay. Can we make that part of the record?
Excuse me, sir. Yeah,
Here.
it's just if you're not on the microphone, we can't make a legal record of what you're
Hold on,
saying.
sir.
Okay.
Let's just hold off here, okay? Sir, hold on.
Wow.
We can't have multiple people speaking because
Okay.
now everybody's being
Okay.
distracted, okay?
Okay.
So if you just want to if you just want to wait there, that would be great. Now, you're presenting photographs. Hold on, before you present those photographs, can we make them part of the record? Do you need them back?
I don't.
Okay,
There should be enough here for everybody.
okay. Are they the same page?
Yes.
Okay. So why don't you keep a page for yourself? And then why don't you tell us what we're looking at?
So. Oops, sorry, thank you. So the picture in the top left-hand corner is showing the end of the deck railing. And you can see there's a tree there. You can see the greenery around the tree. And in the very corner of this picture, well, you can see a little bit of the fountain, but then that's the post where, from that post to the end of the deck is where we're trying to put the lattice fence back. The one below it is what it looks like standing at the side of the yard. So you can see it's opening, you can see the chimney, you can see the greenery. And the picture in the upper right is just showing the side of the house and the deck. Where this deck is open right now is where the already approved fence, 6-foot fence is going, and that's to the corner of the house. And the bottom picture is just looking from the deck over into the side yard.
Okay. Why do we need the fence there?
For privacy, in the top picture, you can see how this is open. Coming from the side, coming down the street and sitting in the side, you can still see right through that angle of the yard into the deck.
And into our side window.
Have we considered any alternatives in terms of any plantings that would minimize the need for a fence at that location?
Well, we've had plants that grew up onto the fence and to the trellis there and grew over the top of it. 2 of them are still there, so we're hoping that they'll grow back. They are growing, but we had to cut them back to get the fence down.
Because they put the snow, when the snow came, it went on top of the fence and the greenery and knocked it over. That's why we're trying to replace them.
Okay. Are there other members of the board that have questions?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I have a question. How high is your deck? I can't tell in the picture from the ground. About, approximately.
Probably a foot off the ground there in the front.
It's about a foot.
Yeah.
Okay, and going back to this picture here, how far from the front of your house you go back to where you're requesting that fence? Is it in halfway? How far is it?
I'd say it's over half.
Okay,
Yep. Where that yellow line starts, that's over half in the back.
It has feedback. You can put it right underneath.
Sorry. So if you look at the front of my house, the front of my house is over here.
right.
This goes only to there. That's my chimney. It's, like I said, this is basically 3 or 4 panels. So the majority of my house here is facing the street.
Okay, so you mentioned the chimney there. There's any way you can put it to the top more where the chimney starts, the fence, or not? Because it looks like the chimney is sticking out anyway.
Yeah, where the yellow line is where there is an existing trellis already, and that is 6 foot. That one didn't fall down, that section that you just did the arrow on.
Okay, so that's still there, and
Yes.
that's been there, Laura, so there's nothing we can do about it.
Since 1998, before
Right.
1998.
Before 1998, so that's, so basically you're only asking for the part that fell down and you never replaced it. And how long ago that fence fell down?
Between a year and a year and a half ago, when we had the big snow. I don't know how long ago that was.
Okay, and did that fence, Mother Nature kind of, something dropped on it and it fell down?
When the fence was there, as we said before, there was greenery that was growing here,
Mhm.
that was poking through the fence. The fence was connected to the fence that's on the deck. That had greenery on it too. When the snow came, it toppled the greenery and everything fell down.
Okay, all right, thank you, that's it, Mr.
Just for clarification, you are replacing that entire yellow line with new fence, correct?
Ideally, that would be nice to have it all new, but we.
Well, is that the plan or not?
No,
No.
these are already existing and they
No.
have plantings on them. I have a grapevine on these. I don't want to replace that because they're fine. There's nothing wrong with them. It's just these that fell down with the snow.
I
So
got it.
that's the 4 panels that I want to replace.
Okay, and for clarification from Laura, that does need a variant. There is no variance from that front panel section, correct?
There is no variance or building permit for it, but when they're that old, we would let them be unless they fell down and applied for a new building permit.
There's some, what's the rule on when something happened? I remember,
So it's 1971.
It's not
Um,
grandfathered in.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's saying that it was there before 1998. I'm sure the building inspector researched it. As far as we could tell, there's never been a fence permit on that property.
Okay. I'm just looking to clarify this. So for it to be grandfathered in, it had to be there pre-existing what date?
1971.
Okay, so it's not grandfathered in. You're just saying the town, from an enforcement perspective, doesn't enforce anything that's that old.
There
Right.
isn't a way for us to tell, like, if it was installed before 1971 in our records. It's unlikely, but there isn't any way for us to prove that it wasn't installed before 1971. We know it's there now, but we couldn't tell you when it was originally installed.
The people that owned the house before us are both deceased.
Okay, I was more just, again, I was just looking for a clarification in my own mind more than it's germane to our conversation tonight. The other panel, though, so just so we have it narrowed down and clarified, the variance would be granted solely for the line, the yellow line running parallel with your property, the side of your house.
Yes.
That's what you're going to be getting the variance for if it was granted tonight.
Mhm.
Yes,
Right.
correct. The applicant just walked up and pointed to the displayed map, and we are in agreement. Are there any other questions for members of the board?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, good evening. Is the lattice that you're proposing to put up going to be the same or similar to the lattice that already exists? Yes or no? Yes or no?
Similar.
Yep.
The other lattice is more of a, I'll show you the two of them.
The other lattice is more of a crisscross. This will be more of a square.
Right. Well, just ready, I saw it. You don't have to make the trip. While I appreciate it, I had an opportunity to look at that. So here we go. You have just yes or no. Do you have an irregular shaped corner lot?
No,
Do you have an irregular
no,
corner?
no.
Is it let me try again. Do you have a square lot or not?
It's more of a rectangle.
Yep, thank you. And you're at the corner of Providence and Nelson, correct?
Right.
All right,
And I own the
we're
lo-
just keep it short. Ready? Just work with me, or trust me. I kind of know what I'm looking for to help me to decide.
Okay.
All right. So if you're standing on Nelson Street and you're looking at your house and you're looking at the right-hand side of the house, the side of the house where you're asking this board to propose to permit you to put up some lattice. Approximately how many feet is it from Nelson to the area where you're proposing to put up the lattice?
Well, you'd be going through the next lot over from me, which I own, which is vacant.
Yep, right. So can you approximate for me as you're standing on Nelson, how many feet it is from Nelson, the street, as you're looking toward your area where you want the lattice?
I have no idea.
Probably perhaps 100 feet.
And would that be from the portion of Nelson that is the portion of Nelson at the intersection of Providence and Nelson?
No, further down. If you look at
Further down Nelson, correct?
further down Nelson that way.
Yep.
So if you look at the middle of Nelson, going back maybe 100 feet.
Okay,
that
great.
yellow line.
Yeah, thank you. Is you're standing on Nelson looking at your house and looking at the area where you're proposing to make the change, your next door neighbors to the right. Can you envision that in your mind's eye for me, please? Okay, and what portion of their residence is closest to the area where you're going to, where you're asking for this variance for the lattice? Is it a garage? Is it a kitchen? Is it a bedroom? Is it a driveway? Is it a pool?
Yeah, it's the side of their house. It's the bottom picture here. On the right, that's their house. That's the side of their house and driveway.
Excellent. So that side of the house, I see in the picture you've provided, thank you, 2 stories, and there's a window on the first story, correct?
A bathroom window, yes, on the first story.
All right. And up on the second story, do I see a window there?
Those are bedroom windows.
All right, very good. I didn't mean to be short with you if it seemed like it. I just needed the sharp answer to help me along. Thank you so much.
Are there any other members of the board that have questions? Having heard none, are there any members of the audience that wish to be heard for or against this application? Having heard none, is there anyone on the board who would like to make a motion relative to this application?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion. I would like to move that we approve the variance as written. I find that the benefit cannot be achieved by other means, as there's a tree blocking the way for other proposed options. And the applicant has already built structures according to the layout which was in place previously and the town chose not to cite. There's no undesirable change in the neighborhood as the applicant is repairing existing structures. This is a substantial request. We do hold that for whenever we're talking about 6-foot fences in front yards. I don't believe there's any environmental impact. In fact, the applicant is protecting trees and greenery, which is important to the town's strategic plan. This is a self-created. This is not self-created as we're repairing a fence that was knocked down by a storm. So on the whole, I move to approve the variance as requested.
A motion has been made. Is there a second?
Mr. Chairman, I'll second that for all the reasons stated.
A motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? Having heard no discussion, Mr. Kennedy, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Lataif?
I'm going to vote yes for all the reasons stated, and I'm going to add that there is a pre-existing 6 feet there, and it would look better to be able to have the 6 feet in this situation to match what was existing there.
Mr. Dolman?
Yes, for the reasons stated.
Ms. Pacheco?
Yes, for the reasons stated.
Mr. Daly?
Yes, for the reasons stated.
Mr. Green?
Yes, for the reasons stated, and also the fact that this actually, in my mind, is a rare example of where it's actually going to be an improvement. It just seems to me that there would be a greater flow with permitting the lattice, which is in fact part of the lattice that had been there since the early 90s, as I understand it.
Mr. Antonikowski?
Yes, for the reasons stated.
Chairperson Hoag?
I have consistently held in these types of situations that the factor that I consider the most with respect to replacement of pre-existing non-conforming fences is that the change in repairing or improving the property to replace what has existed for a long period of time improves the character of the neighborhood, and that factor is heavily weighted in my decision making on these types of applications relative to fences. And for all the other reasons that have previously been stated, I vote yes as well. So your variance has been granted with a unanimous vote. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Mr. Kennedy, will you call the next matter, please?
Appeal by Pamela and Michael Rodick for a variance from Section 220-4, Section 220-13, Schedule IA, and Section 220-53A of the zoning ordinance of the town of Niskuna as it applies to the property at 288 East Street, Niskuna, New York, located in the RR Rural Residential Zoning District, to construct a 12-foot by 18-foot three-season room partially within the front yard setback to a paper street and exceeding the cumulative alteration limit set for pre-existing non-conforming buildings. Section 220-4 states for corner lots, each street line shall be considered a front lot line. The property fronts on 2 streets, East Street and a paper street. Section 220-13, Schedule IA, requires a 55-foot minimum front yard setback. As proposed, the three-season room would be located 19 feet 6 inches from the front property line along the paper street. Therefore, a 35-foot 6-inch front yard setback variance is required. Section 220-53A states a nonconforming building may be structurally altered as long as cumulative alterations do not add more than 10% to the usable floor area of said building or structure as it existed on July 1, 1971, and when a valid zoning and building permit has been obtained. Such alterations shall not tend to increase any inherent nuisance, nor shall such alterations violate any provisions of this chapter regarding yards, lot area, and lot coverage for the district in which it is situated, or increase any existing violations of such provisions. Based upon former ZBA action, all additional usable floor space are required a variance. As proposed, there is 8% additional usable floor area. Therefore, an 8% usable floor area variance is required. 4 notices were mailed, 0 responses.
Thank you, sir. Can you state your name and address for the record, please?
Michael Rodick, 288 East Street,
Mr.
Una.
Mr. Rodick, before you start, I understand that there's 2 separate variances that you're applying for this evening. The survey's been put up. The first variance is for a setback from the paper street that's reflected on that survey, correct?
Yes.
The second variance is a riddle to me. So I am going to have that deciphered. It seems to me that the variance request that the additional usable floor area adds 8% to the structure. And what am I missing? It says that the building can be structurally altered as long as it doesn't add 10%. So I'm confused.
Well, I can explain the 8% if you want to explain the code. Or I can explain the code too.
Well, I mean, my understanding, Laura, I guess you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that the code indicates that you can, if there's allowable alterations to the existing building up to 10%. It sounds as though based on prior ZBA action, that 10% has been used up.
Yeah.
So now they're seeking an additional 8% for this new addition.
Is that correct, Laura?
Yeah, and this property actually received a variance for the deck that's 12 by 12. And he's just looking to put 6 feet on it on the kind of the left side in that drawing. So it becomes 12 by 18, and the 8% is just that 6 feet additional to the left of the deck. So every time they need a variance, the additions are cumulative, and the 8% is the deck. The 12 by 12 deck already had a variance, so the 8% is just that additional 6 feet.
I believe I understand. Does anybody on the board have any questions with respect to that? Okay, maybe it was just me. Sir, can you tell us a little bit about your project?
We got an existing 12 by 12 deck, and we want to make a 12 by 18. It's a deck, not covered. We want to make it a 3-season room and extend it to the left 6 foot.
Okay.
Remove the existing deck and rebuild the whole thing. Because the footers aren't correct, are proper for the snow load if there's a roof on there.
Okay. And do you have any neighbors? Where's your closest neighbor to the deck?
On the right-hand side, across that paper street, 36-inch wide paper street. I believe it is.
Okay. And with respect to that, that neighbor, have you spoken with respect to your proposal to increase the size of your deck?
To that neighbor, no.
Okay. Have you have any of your other neighbors, have you spoken to any of your other neighbors with respect to the deck?
No.
Do you have any other neighbors behind you?
No. Way over on William Street. Got to be 300 yards away further.
Okay. And how about to the looking at your property from East Street? Do you have a neighbor to your left?
No.
Okay. So the only neighbor would be the neighbor to your right that would be impacted by this.
Yes.
Okay.
Just if I may, there's somebody maybe across the street, just while you're on the topic, Mr. Chairman.
In front of your house across the street, do you have any neighbors?
Yes.
And has that neighbor spoken to you, or have you spoken to that neighbor relative to the deck?
No.
Okay. That neighbor wouldn't be able to see the deck from his location?
No.
Are there other members of the board that have questions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have a few questions. Looking at the documents that you provided, can you describe the nature of the addition in terms of materials? Can you talk about that, please?
The materials,
Yes, on the exterior
Oh.
appearance.
windows, and we were contemplating on like going through superior exterior sunrooms. They're prefab panels.
What's the material on the outside?
Oh, it
and
would
what
be
does it
like
look
a,
like?
I'm not sure if it's a vinyl or a, like, I don't know, painted aluminum or something. It's a finished panel. It would be finished inside and outside if that's the route we take, which that's what we're considering. But we're still searching other options. And if it was to like be stick framed, it would be vinyl siding. Like that's what the house is.
Okay, so the current house is vinyl siding, lap siding,
Correct.
and you're not sure whether this is going to be like a single panel or a smooth.
Well, it's going to be a
finish?
textured panel.
Yes, but not siding to match the house necessarily. You're
No.
not sure of that.
It would be white.
Is your house white?
No, it's beige. Or tan, very light tan.
Okay, and the roof, can you talk about the roof?
That roof is buttoned into a gable roof. And I think there's another elevation on that too. Picture. But it's buttoned into a gable roof. Yeah, right there. Oh, you can't barely see the gable. And to the right of, there you go. To the right of it, it's a gable roof running the opposite way. One gable here, one gable here. So also, we were up in the air about if we were going to have a gable roof on that, the new addition, because of tying it in properly. Since I'm sure I got to get an engineer stamp. So when that comes around, we're going to see the best way to tie in.
Okay, so you're not exactly sure of the configuration of the roof.
Correct.
Is it intended to have shingles on it to
Yes.
match your house?
Shingles, that's the way we're talking, yes.
Okay, and while you don't necessarily know the configuration of the roof, what is the plan for draining water that falls on there? You know, where does the water go when it comes off your proposal?
Just same way it comes off the existing. No, I would put up gutters and just divert it away from the house. My house is mostly crawl space, so it doesn't affect me.
Okay.
I got a small basement, which is very short, and that just has a sub pump pit in there. And when it rains hard, the pump kicks in and stuff. Like I got gutter on most of my house, and I just to get it away from the house.
Is there any complaint from the neighbor when you're looking at your house from the street to the right? I know there's the paper street in between. Does the water that comes off your property head in that direction? Is there any issue there?
No,
Where does the water generally head from the back of your house?
well, it would go down to, if it was to run off that side, it would just go down to the road, and there's a culvert there, which I have a sub pump into my basement, the small basement, which is into the culvert on the road,
Okay.
right
so-
next to the road on my side of the road.
So the space between your existing house and the paper street, that's kind of a long rectangle in the image we see on the screen.
Yep.
That's where the water, you're saying, runs towards the street.
Yes. Or towards the paper street. It just kind of, it's flat, but it's not. It's a little bit bermed going away from my house, so I'm sure it sheds away. That's just an overgrown paper street. You know, it's just 36 inches wide.
I would beg to differ. It's probably 36 feet wide.
Oh, that's
Just
what,
as a-
yes, that's
as
what
a
I mean.
correction.
Right, right.
On,
Sorry.
when you stand at the street, I know we mentioned this before, but looking at your house, the lot to the left, which, is that a corner lot? Do you know?
On the left,
Yes,
the lot is not my property.
right, right. So the corner lot next to yours, you said was vacant.
Yes.
Was there ever a residence there? Do you have any idea what the owner?
No, never.
Okay.
Like maybe many, 100 years ago or something, but no, there's never been. I know who owns it, and I don't know. I don't want to go on saying any more about it. For some reason I think it's wetlands. So I don't know why somebody has never built there. It's a very, it's a corner lot.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Hello.
Forgive me, I'm just kind of a curious cat sometimes. Can you shed any light for us with regard to this paper street?
What's that?
Can you shed any light for us with regard to that paper street?
It's an overgrown paper street. You can see the paper street and there's a driveway. It looks like a driveway in it. That used to be my right of way to the house. I stopped using that and I put a driveway in front of the house and a garage on the left side. That is just overgrown.
So it's all scrub?
Yes, yes.
So in other words, just to make sure no one uses that paper street. You used to use it, but you no longer need to because you put in a driveway on your property.
Correct.
Thanks. That's good enough for me.
The only thing that uses it is the deer.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Are there any other members of the board that have any questions? Are there any members of the audience that have any position with respect to this application? Having heard no members of the audience that wish to be heard for or against this application, is there anyone on the board who wishes to make a motion?
I have a question, Mr. Chair. Since there's two separate applications here, do we have to vote on them separately?
That's at the discretion of the board. If you
Yeah.
you can do it as one motion, or you can do them separately, but just indicate if you're doing it by one motion that it's for both variances.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion
Is it on one variance or both
on
variances?
both variances.
Oh, thank you for the clarification, Mr. Donovan.
I would move to approve the amendment approve both the variances as submitted. I find that the benefit cannot be achieved by other means. I don't find that this is an undesirable change in the neighborhood. There's no reason to believe that this would have an adverse environmental impact, and the question of drainage seems to be mostly mitigated. It seems to be mitigated by both the gutters and the fact that there's not a neighbor anywhere particularly close by that would be concerned about his drainage. This is absolutely self-created, but that is non-determinative. So on the balance, I would vote to move to approve both variances as requested.
A motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second that for all the reasons just stated.
A motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? Having heard none, no discussion. Ms. Shakedi, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Lataif?
I'm going to vote yes for all the reasons stated.
Mr. Dolman?
Yes, for the reasons stated.
Ms. Pacheco?
I'm going to abstain.
Mr. Daly?
We have to.
Yes.
We have
Yeah.
to go back. If you're going to abstain, you have to state the reason on the record for the abstention, and it has to be a legal reason for abstention.
My apologies then. I did not realize that was the procedure in this case.
Before you put your justification on the record, I just want clarification. If since Ms. Pacheco has participated in the proceeding to this point, does that create an issue?
Well, I guess I don't know what the reason for the abstention is. So if the reason is you're stuck, that's not a reason to abstain. If there is a conflict that's resulting in the abstention, that should have been put on the record at the start of the case. But we could probably work through that.
Okay, I'll say that I'm somewhat torn on this. While I agree with my colleagues on some of the points, I have a difficulty with the lack of clarification on the materials and the height of this addition that was not clarified or written anywhere. So I will vote no.
Okay.
Mr. Daly,
Yes, for all the reasons stated.
Mr. Green,
Yes, and in particular, in this instance, it would appear to be an absence of impact, especially given the fact that the area of the request of the variance is adjacent to a paper street, and for the other reasons stated. So yes.
Mr. Antonikowski,
A yes for the reasons stated.
Chairperson Hoke.
Yes, for the reasons stated, your variance has been approved 6-1,
Both of them.
both variances.
That's it.
That's it.
Thank you. Have a good night.
All right, take care. Mr. Skiddy, we call the next matter, please.
Appeal by Capital Land Companies, agent for a variance from Section 220-18B3B and Section 220-13 Schedule IB of the zoning ordinance of the town of Niskiuna as it applies to the property at 2440 Nottingham Mall, Niskiuna, New York, located in the R1 Low Density Residential Zoning District, to construct a 12-foot by 26-foot in-ground pool partially within the rear yard setback. Section 220-18B3B states that the required side and rear yard dimensions for major accessory structures shall be the same as applies to the principal building. Major accessory structures are defined as detached accessory buildings or other structures in excess of 120 square feet. The in-ground pool at 312 square feet is a major accessory structure. Section 220-13 Schedule IB requires a 25-foot rear yard setback. As proposed, the in-ground pool would be 14 feet from the rear property line. Therefore, an 11-foot rear yard setback is required. 11 notices were mailed, 0 responses.
Sir, can you state your name and address for the record, please?
Christopher Quinn, 101A Agnes Avenue, Schenectady, New York, 12303.
Mr. Quinn, it was my understanding, speaking with Ms. Robertson earlier before the meeting, that you were going to submit an updated survey to verify the distance between the home and the rear property line.
The distance we were able to verify, the updated survey is actually a part of the permit submittal. Upon rejection of the original permit application, we retained Fred Metzger, the land surveyor and planner. And so that is not ready yet, but it will be ready for the permit application. There's the sole purpose for my appeal to the board tonight, and thank you for hearing me tonight, board members, by the way, is just to ascertain if we can obtain the board's permission for a reduction from 25 feet to 14 feet in light of the layout of the property. It's a corner lot, and both adjoining properties have had the benefit of a swimming pool installation on similar shaped properties. So it would be just my only request is the ability to reduce the rear setback requirement from 25 to 14. On my sketch, which I submitted, that pool is marked 12 by 26. Upon further investigation, the actual water line of the pool has a width of 11 feet, not 12. 12 would be, it's a fiberglass swimming pool, factory made, so it's lowered by crane into the ground. So it has a flange at the edge, and then the concrete that sets upon the flange. So that dimension is 12, but the actual dimension is 11. So that lends us a foot. And then my request would be to be 9 feet from the back porch of the house instead of 10. But the 14 remains constant from my application to the board tonight. I know that we have a more comprehensive package, which will be submitted as the permit application. That'll be very detailed in the silt fence, staging of gravel materials, in and out routes for the truck, cleaning of the tires before the trucks reach the road. Like, it's that full package that we typically submit to Niskayuna. It's a rigorous.
Sir, I guess the question, my concern is, if you get your final survey and you determine that you require more than an 11-foot, rear yard setback, your variance will not cover that.
Understood, sir. Yes, I would reapply to be before your board next month. But I'm confident that what we have here, after hand checking, this 30, so we have an overall 110 foot property measurement from front to back. So 42 for the front yard, I confirmed, 34 for the house, I confirmed, and then 34 for the backyard. Also confirmed. So I don't expect it to shrink, but if we do find that, I would, if it could be a conditional approval where I could move forward with the permit submittal, that would be fine. If we find it badly, withdraw the conditional, and I'll bring it back before the board. But with the foot discrepancy in the pool and just tightening up to the house 1 foot, we could be in perfect compliance with this request.
Can we make it conditional? No.
Not for that reason. So the variance, once granted, is going to run with the land. The conditions can be to minimize the impact of the variance itself. But if the question is the size of the variance to be granted, that's not a conditional approval.
I mean, the board could table the matter until the next meeting.
Right.
And then you could submit the survey, and we could be certain of the dimensions. So we don't have to go and have the matter heard on 2 separate occasions.
I understand that as an option, but I'm trying to expedite things for the benefit of my client, who they've been waiting all summer to get this approval. So if there's any way that the board would consider an approval at the 14 feet, I will, via Laura, distribute the perfected several $1,000 survey that we commissioned and verify this information for everyone's edification. I'm very confident that it's going to be what we're presenting.
Well, I think you're entitled to move forward with your application tonight if you so desire to do that. Okay. And I'm not taking a position on whether it's going to be approved or not approved. I think there could be additional questions from the board relative to reaching that conclusion.
Yep.
I just wanted to give you the opportunity to contemplate that at the get-go. I assume from what you're telling me, you want to move forward with the application, irrespective of whether the final survey indicates that you may need a greater variance, which would require you to start all over again.
I don't mind that at all. I would love to appeal to the board for their approval tonight under these conditions, and I'll make sure that we don't break them.
Okay, so why don't you tell us why the pool has to go there and why you can't further minimize the need for the variance?
Sure. The property, it's an end cap. It's Nottingham Mall, and it's between two main streets in that neighborhood, and it's just the developer rotated the homes 90 degrees to fit them on the end cap. It's like the end cap of a supermarket aisle, and it just has that. It's not the zoning in that area. I think it's RR1. It's just not a good fit for this size property. Similar properties in other parts of the Capital District would have a setback as small as 5 feet. For example, Colony. So I think that 14 feet is still a very generous margin. But by community standards, larger than Niskayuna, and the neighbor within view, right behind the pool, he enjoys a pool with a similar setback.
So, okay, that's not necessarily responsive to the question I asked, though.
Sorry.
Why does the pool have to go at that location?
Oh, they're not dead set on that location, but in the side yard, it would be even more of a stretch for zoning, and then up next to the driveway would not be appropriate for vehicles. Risk from deliveries coming and going. This is the.
Why couldn't it come closer to the home?
Oh, it can. But, you know, we just need, for safety, to egress from the deck. We need, you know, it can't be like 4 or 5 feet. It's not good practice in my experience. I've built about 260 of these. You need 7 or 8 feet minimum to,
Well, we're 9 feet now, right?
yes.
So explain why that's the most beneficial distance from the home.
Just to not crowd, you know, the homeowners when they're coming down from the staircase. They could be carrying a grandchild or a plate of food or drinks, or, you know, it could be evening time. We can't have them trip and fall into the pool.
And I believe you indicated that the house directly behind the residence also has a pool. Is that correct?
Yes,
Is that an in-ground pool or an above-ground?
it's an in-ground pool, similar.
Okay. Do you know what the setback is on that pool?
I'll be happy to measure, but I don't have it right now.
Okay. Is it approximately the same distance?
It is.
That pool did not require a variance.
That other pool didn't require a variance.
I got a question.
Mr. Daly has a question.
Yes, sir.
Sir, when are they going to come in and survey that?
They're working on it now. There was a significant backlog in surveying this summer. I guess there was a lot going on, construction-wise in this area, and I retained them in
When you
June.
say working on them, give me a date.
Oh, I would say in the next week or two.
Next 2 weeks. you
Yes.
said, Right?
Yes, and the guy does a nice job. I use him exclusively for submittals to Niskiuna, and we get through very well with his work. It's detailed enough with our temporary setup, you know, describing the ingress, egress.
I understand
temporary
that.
Materials. Yeah, we know how to comply with the requirements for Niskiuna.
And you're sure that the survey is going to comply with the board?
Yes,
You're positive?
yes. And
And-
I'll take the loss.
And if it doesn't, what are you going to do?
Start over again. Take the loss and start over again.
Are there any other questions from members of the board?
Yes, I have a question. In the application, you mentioned a picket fence going around the pool. Can you describe where it starts and stops? Does it connect to the house, et cetera?
Right now, it's at the property line across the back, and then we'd have to improve the fence and bring it up to the house, 48-inch minimum per county code, and automatic closing gates per code.
So earlier you were talking about providing adequate area for the homeowners to come downstairs, you know, whether they're holding food or children, and not trip into the pool. Can you describe roughly where, as we're looking at the plan, the new fence will be going?
Yeah, can I approach the screen?
With a microphone.
Oh, okay. Sure. So right now, the fence is just dividing the property from the neighbor's property, and then we could tie it in here, and then either leave it large over here and tie it in like this, or we could tie it in here. I have to determine that budget-wise with the clients, but it'll be very presentable and tasteful.
Okay, so essentially the pool will be within a large area that's enclosed by the new fence.
Yes.
Okay, it's not tight up to the pool.
No, not at all. There may be a gate that's used. I recommend that, just so you know, so no little kids are making their way out to the pool without permission.
Thank you.
Sure thing. Thank you.
I got a question for you. Are you going to start? Excuse me. Are you going to start work on this before the survey?
No, no, sir. I need the approval of the permit department. If I can gain the approval of your board tonight, then the permit department will consider my reapplication under this approval.
Okay.
Once they approve that, then we'll start work right away.
Without the survey?
No, not without the survey. The survey is a necessary component.
You're going to have the whole package
Yeah,
together?
it's got to go to the building department before
Okay.
I can start. Yeah. I wouldn't
Okay,
do- I
thank
wouldn't
you.
do
That's
that.
good.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Thank
sir.
you.
Are there any other questions?
Yeah, a couple of questions. I like the design.
Thank you.
The question I have, where is your filter And where is your drainage for the pool going?
Sure.
And if you can go over the design, because I can see where the pool is. But again, it's going to require the filter, the drainage when you need to empty the pool, and so on. And I know you said you have a neighbor in the back, so that will, put some consideration for where you're draining that water if you have to empty the pool or.
Let me pick up the microphone and approach the
Please
screen.
do.
Thank you. So the question being the filter and equipment, it's always our goal to tie it in on the side of the house when possible. The utilities are generally located on the dead side of the house with less windows, and so we can tap the utilities efficiently here for gas and electric. So to put it here would be our goal, and then each system has a collapsible washout hose when it's necessary to drain down the pool, and that should be able to reach the main road. And we'll take into consideration the rain system, and we try to reach that with the hose and be responsible. We're not going to flood the neighbor. That'll be a good way to irritate him.
So your pump is going to be behind the house?
On the side.
On the side.
Yeah, and then we have 3 or 4 different ways to obscure that, like a 3
So
foot.
if you were doing the backwash, you're saying you're going to tie it to the street?
Yeah, we come out to the front street. That's the most responsible way to deal with it.
And, how old is that house?
Brian?
1974?
Sir, if you're going to speak, you have to come up to the microphone.
1974.
Say your name and address, please.
Brian Sweeney, 2440 Nottingham Mall, Niskayuna.
Okay, your response to the age of the home?
It's a 1974.
Thank you. So there was any pool in there in the past? Did they
Not that we
have
know of, sir.
above ground,
No.
anything? No. Okay, you answered my question. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Are there any other questions from the board?
Thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to be heard for or against this application? Having heard no members of the audience that wish to be heard, is there anyone on the board who wishes to make a motion for or against the application?
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to make a motion to approve this application. As I look at it, I think this is the best way to design for that lot. It's a small lot, but it's convenient enough to be able to have the space between the house and the pool for safety reason. And the 14 feet to the side is enough room to the fence to be proper on the property. It's not going to cause any undesirable change to the neighborhood. Again, it's an in-ground. Once they have their 6 feet fence, or if they have the 6 feet fence, people can't see it from the neighbors. Was this request substantial? It is substantial, but again, it's in the back of the property. And to me, it looks like, if you put a shed in there and the shed is 14 feet away, this pool is still have enough room in the backyard to be able to enjoy the surrounding of it. Is a request to have adverse physical or environment effect. It's not going to have any effects. The main concern I had was the drainage of the pool. It looks like the applicant, they have proper drainage going to the water main. And also, is this a self-created? It is self-created, but again, I go back to the property is unique here. It's small, but big enough to have where they have to have the pool. For all these reasons, I'm going to approve this application.
A motion has been made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
A motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? Having heard no discussion, Ms. Shakedi, we call the roll, please.
Mr. Lataif?
Yes.
Mr. Dolman?
Yes, for the reasons already stated.
Ms. Pacheco?
Yes, and I'll just note again, like my colleague did, the uniqueness of the lot being on the corner and on an end, but also in a neighborhood where many of the houses have pools in the backyard. I think it is an improvement there. So I vote yes.
Mr. Daly?
Yes, for the reasons stated, by the way, you did a very good presentation.
Thank you very much, sir.
Mr. Green?
Yeah, just dovetailing with what some of my fellow members are saying, just more explicitly in my mind. A pool is not necessarily a desirable change, but in this case, I believe it is. It's a desirable change, and I can't see how it would anything but enhance and improve not only this particular property, but the neighborhood in general, and specifically the adjoining property that also has a pool. So for those reasons and the reasons stated, yes.
Mr. Antonikowski?
Yes, for the reasons stated.
Chairperson Hoke?
Yes, for all the reasons stated, your variance has been approved.
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
members of the board.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Very good.
Thank you very much. Niskayuna is an important market to us, so we have to be very careful what we do here.
We appreciate
I'll
that.
be back.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Are there any other matters before the board this evening? Having heard none, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Motion's been made. All in favor?
Aye.